We can take the numbers from this table and draw them up in a diagram which will show the same relationship. Now look at the value of marginal product, which is given as 40, 50, 60, 50, 40 and 20. So we want to write down or draw a diagram of the relationship between labor, the number of workers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the value of marginal product, 40, 50, 60, etc. And we will also indicate the wage rate in the same diagram. So it will look something like this. As you can see, on the x-axis I have labor, and on the vertical axis I have wages. So what I have got then is the curve represents the value of marginal product, price times marginal product. You can see that it would look something like this, like an inverted U from the numbers themselves. Or you can say that since marginal product is an inverted U because of the law of diminishing returns, therefore price times marginal product will also have a similar shape. I have drawn the wages as a straight line to show that wages are fixed at say 25 rupees. Now to find out the right level of labor to hire, you have to set price times marginal product equal to the wage rate. Now you can see the wage line intersects the value of marginal product curve P times MP at two different points, L1 and L2. So for our purposes, the right amount of labor to hire is actually L2, the point where price is equal to marginal product, the point where wages are equal to marginal product. You might ask, why not L1? Well, L1 doesn't actually maximize profits, and that you can see very simply by thinking about this particular experiment. Suppose you were at L1 and suppose you chose to hire one more worker. Then what would happen? Well, if you go to the right, then the price times marginal product will be higher than the wage rate, which means you will actually add to your profit if you hire more workers than L1. So in other words, L1 cannot be the point which maximizes your profits, because you can always do better. You can always get a higher level of profit if you were to hire more workers than L1. So consequently, L2 is the right number of workers to hire. You can think what would happen if the wage rate was different. For a higher wage rate, you would choose a level of labor which is lower than L2. For a lower wage rate, you would choose a level of labor which is higher than L2. But nevertheless, the formula, the wages are equal to price times marginal product, must always hold. You can say two things. One is that you would never choose a level of labor which is to the left of the maximum point of the value of marginal product curve. So that means you would always choose to operate in the region where the law of diminishing returns applies. This obviously makes sense, because why would you choose to hire a certain amount of labor when you know your productivity is increasing? So you would always choose to operate at a point where the law of diminishing returns applies. So the portion of the price times marginal product curve to the left of the maximum point is actually of no concern to us. We can very well disregard that part of the curve. So then we are only left with the portion which is to the right of the maximum. And as wages change, you can see that we are choosing different points on that part of the curve. So in other words, that part of the curve which remains is really the demand for labor for the firm. So we have in a very simple way, found out what is the demand curve for labor for an individual firm.